Hello, friends. Welcome to A Little Room for Healing, where we aim to create a little more room in the world for authentic connection, insightful healing, and a deeper understanding of our hearts, ourselves, and each other through honest conversation. My name is Joel. I'm a Reiki and 13th octave Laho Chi practitioner, a facilitator for deep healing, and your host. Today, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone and doing my first solo episode. Join me as I find my voice while I share about the road to finding my truth. There is a beautiful turning point halfway through where the ramblings about my healing journey shift to a more grounded share about where I am. I touch on my struggle with worthlessness, indoctrination, letting go of my grip on trauma, my affair with acting, and I close with the power in knowing I matter. The episode is beautifully serenaded by rainy traffic out the front window of my friend's apartment, where I was staying when the inspiration hit me to record. Thanks for going on the journey with me. Come on in. Hello, friends. Welcome to A Little Room for Healing. Again, this is a special episode. This will be my first episode where I am going to just talk by myself. I am alone. I am here to share with you some more of my personal story. And I felt like compelled to share it solo this time for the first time, which is also stepping out of a comfort zone for me, which is exciting and a little terrifying, quite honestly. But the time has come to do this, so I am. And the topic that I want to talk about today is this new truth that I've found within. Well, interesting. It's not a new truth. It's a very old truth. It's a truth that I've always had, that I've hidden and suppressed and avoided and ignored my whole life. And now it has come back into my life full force, and I'm integrating it, and I am wanting to share it. And the truth is that I matter. And this is not, I'm not saying that I'm the only one that matter. I'm saying my truth is that I matter. And in that, I also believe that you matter and everyone else matters. And if my experience matters, your experience matters. And if there is a clashing, this is just broad strokes here, if there's a clashing between your experience and my experience, then it is our duty to voice our experiences in the way that best will accomplish us to meet and get on the same page, and to be able to hold and honor you to be able to hold and honor your experience and my experience, and me to be able to hold and honor my experience and your experience. So anyway, the truth is that I matter. Truth is that you matter. And I want to tell you about how I got to this within myself, and how it's been suppressed and pushed down. And I will start with a journey I had on a medicine called serenaded a year ago. And I forget what my initial intention was for this journey, but I had in this experience if you've been listening to my other podcasts, you will already know a little bit about this, because I've mentioned it before. But during this journey, there's this white stallion of truth that came to me. And this white stallion, very powerful presence, came up to me. I was overwhelmed by this experience, and it anointed me one who carries truth, and anointed me, like did this mark on my forehead, like burned it in. and anointed me one who carries truth. And in the experience, it was really overwhelming. It was like the responsibility of holding truth felt overwhelming to me, and it took me quite a bit of time to, after this powerful horse left, it took me quite a bit of time to orient around and hold the experience of the power with which this landed in my being. And the funny and confusing part about it was I didn't know what truth this thing was talking about. Like, what truth am I holding? What truth is mine to hold? And what am I supposed to share it? Am I here to tell the world? Is this, what power is this? I don't understand. It was a lot. And I went on a journey trying to find out what this truth was for a few weeks afterwards. And I kept coming up with things that just weren't landing. I don't even remember what they were at the time. But I know that I was really searching. And then it kind of faded away as I moved into other things in my healing journey. But I never forgot this white stallion of truth that came down. And I spent the next year going through this intense experience of delving into pretty much I don't know all. I don't know yet, but it felt like every one of my deepest, darkest shadows and wounds and traumas over the last year. Not saying that I've healed everything that I'm ever going to heal. I'm just saying that these were the big ones that I was delving into, and there's always going to be maintenance. There's always going to be something to heal, and I may stumble across something else that's really huge that I'm not even aware of yet. I don't know. That's the beauty of the journey, right? So throughout the year, I found myself face to face with first my healing my worthless wound, the wound that I have in me that said I'm worthless. And there's this big part of me, there's this young part of me that's just feels so worthless, or has felt worthless, and it was manipulating the field and trying to take over relationships and interactions with friends, with family, with partners, and had this beautiful experience of finally facing that, which was terrifying as well. It is incredible how facing these shadows and these traumas and these wounds is so terrifying. It's so scary at first and in the beginning, and then when you get into it and you're like letting this experience wash over you, sometimes for a month at a time, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for a month at a time, and when sometimes for longer years. And I was holding it, and I had this beautiful experience. If you may recall, our friend Nicole, who I did a episode with a while ago, she served me some hape, and then in this experience of hape, I found myself on this bridge, and I was on one end, and the other side of the bridge was my 6-year-old self who felt worthless. And after a year of being aware of this child part and trying to connect with him and honor him and love him the way he needed to be loved, in this moment on this bridge with Hape, we ran to each other and we connected in the middle of the bridge and hugged, and I held him and I said to him, I'm here for you. I love you. I think you are worthy. In my eyes, you are worthy. And for the first time, he was able to receive that from someone, and that someone being me, which is the person he needed to hear it from out of anyone in the world. And we just hugged each other and cried and connected for the very first time. And I've had this beautiful relationship with him since, and my worthless feeling has subsided quite beautifully, quite drastically. It may peak in every once in a while, but I don't feel it controlling the field anymore, and I don't feel it trying to manipulate me, or it's not the most powerful presence in the space anymore, is what I'm saying. Because I am now giving it what he needs, which is worth and love and holding and respect. And then after that moment, I went into this. That's when I started the podcast, actually. Right after that, the podcast came out of me. And then after the podcast came out, I went into this months-long journey with anger. And in this months-long journey with anger, I found myself in all the corners. It felt like all the corners of my shadow, trying to understand why I felt so angry. And my anger was actually aimed at a certain person that I won't talk about, but that was just how the anger got was able to be pulled out, which wasn't for this person. The actual anger was what I found for the way I was brought up in religion, a religious trauma, and the anger I felt at the suppression and the confliction I've had by being told that I'm a sinner, that I basically am worthless unless I look outside of myself, for something outside of myself to give me purpose and worth and meaning. And how much that hurt. It just absolutely hurt. It's this feeling of, what's the point? If I'm not good enough and I need something outside of me, what's the point of even being here? And why am I not worthy of love unless I worship something else, or unless I give myself over to something else? And I'm not worthy of what they call eternal life in heaven unless I do that. It never felt right. The whole time I was in it, and I was in that until I left my home and when I stopped going to church. But the hold of religion was still on me, because I'd spent 18 years of my life, and longer, quite honestly, but 18 years of my life, like, in the trenches with the church and the stories of the church and the suppression of the church and the purity culture of the church and the basically the teaching of separating me from myself is what that experience was. So all this anger was coming out starting in October through March, end of March. And before I reached the end of the anger journey, I had this beautiful moment of seeing how much I was gripping onto another trauma of mine that was compounding on the religious trauma that made me feel worthless. And that was this trauma of my urethra, where I had I didn't know this until I was 23 what it was, but I had false passages in my urethra that every time I urinated, or when I started puberty and started ejaculating, every time I would do either of those two things, there would be this really sharp, piercing pain in the tip of my penis that was excruciating and made me feel very inferior and less than and embarrassed and shameful, and especially around sexuality. And wow, it's wild. My back is hurting right now so much. Like, what is moving through me? Ooh, this is intense. I'm going to keep going through. I'm going to keep pushing forward, though. And I had been working on trying to heal this since I was, well, that's not true. The actual physical pain was healed when I was 23 during a trip to an emergency room that I had. I'm not going to go into the details. And then from 23 to 33, I was in this fog of darkness and depression and doing drugs, and found myself streaking everywhere. Like, I would get naked and I would streak all around New York City. Wild. Looking for attention. I can talk about all these things at another time, I think, more in depthly, if it wants to come out. And at 33, I started doing therapy. And 2 years after I started doing talk therapy with the therapist I'm still with, I got introduced to plant medicine. And plant medicine started this really intense healing experience over the next 8 years I've been working with it. Hold on, I gotta take a break. My back hurts so much. Okay, I am back. That was wild. It's like I feel like I'm cleaning out things still from my root center, and also I'm finding my voice. Even just talking with you solo right now is me clearing out things, finding my voice, because I've felt so little and so small my whole life. So I don't even remember what I was talking about before, but another thing is coming up right now. I know I'm scatterbrained. You just have to please just, be with me in it. That's it. Or don't. But I am scatterbrained, and the thing that's coming up right now, because of this finding my voice and clearing my voice thing, is this experience I had last weekend. I was driving up to Buffalo to visit my friend and see him do his one-man show, and really looking forward to it. And on the drive out there, it was a 5-hour drive from where I live, and on the drive there I was thinking about acting. I was once an actor. I did as many plays as I could in high school, and then I went to school in New York City for acting, and I thought that I wanted to be an actor most of my life. And so I'm driving up thinking about acting, and about 6 years ago, I stopped acting. I gave up on the dream. I don't even want to call it gave up on the dream. I realized it wasn't for me, is what happened. And it was such an interesting experience. I was about to audition for something, and the night before I forgot that I was auditioning for something the next morning. And I got a reminder, and I go, what is this? And I didn't even know where I put the sides. The sides are the little bits of, little portions of the script that you get to audition with. And I didn't even know where I put them, and I hadn't even looked at them since I got them. And when I realized this, I go, wait a minute, do I even really want to do this? Do I even really want to be an actor? And the resounding answer in my system was, no, I don't. And that's when I left. That's when I left that as a something that I was desiring to do for a profession. And I was thinking about this on the way to go see my friend Patrick do his one-man show, which was amazing, by the way. It was so good. I realized I was contemplating why I didn't want to act, and I had already gone through this, but I was reliving this contemplation. And the fact of the matter is, I really believe that both light there are both light and shadow reasons for why we want to do everything in our lives. And the shadow part that was becoming more and more clear to me about why I wanted to be an actor was, especially since I was doing my healing work. I'd already started with plant medicine, and part of the reason why this healing shift was happening, and I was seeing the shadow part of it, and the shadow part of me wanting to be an actor was that I wanted attention. I wanted outside validation. I wanted to be seen, and I was thinking that I had to get all these things from the outside. I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be respected, and I thought, if I am a successful, famous actor, I would be able to get all of these things. And it just didn't feel good anymore. Like, that seemed to be the majority of why I was doing it. And it didn't feel good anymore, so I knew it wasn't for me, and I stepped away. Now, there are also the light reasons why I wanted to do it. I really love storytelling. I love storytelling. And I love that medium of storytelling. I'm such a big fan of movies. I watch so many, as a lot of my friends can attest to. But that wasn't enough for me to continue on that journey. And on this drive up to see Patrick, I was thinking more about it, and I realized, I love telling stories, but I didn't feel confident enough in my own voice to tell stories that are authentic and true to me for so long in my life, until I started my healing journey, that I felt like the only way for me to tell stories to get attention was to be someone else, and to pretend I was someone else to tell a story and tell other people's stories. When really all I wanted, the only thing that felt true to me and good to me was was wanting to express myself and wanting to feel seen for being me. And I was reminiscing about that in the car, and it felt so good to see that through this podcast I've started doing that. And now here I am, actually sitting here by myself, talking to you all, telling my truth and my story, or parts of my story. And I'm even getting emotional right now. It feels really beautiful and empowering to me to do this right now. I remember writing poetry in high school, and I could never write really honest poetry that you could really understand. A couple times it came out, like when my grandpa died, I wrote this song about my grandpa. Maybe I'll play it for you sometime on Instagram or something. But it always was in like these coded words and these ideas that, like, I don't know what, there was emotion that was coming through, but nobody knew what I was talking about. And I'm not even sure if I knew what I was talking about. Maybe I did on some deep codified level, but... So this healing process has just been me getting back to me and how I can share my truth, back to the white stallion, with people in a way that connects, in a way that feels good to me, in a way that feels confident and expressive. And this is I'm understanding that I even feel like my confidence waning in and out as I'm sharing with you right now. Like, sometimes I feel it get really lower, and I start stumbling, and I'm like, am I saying the right thing? Am I rambling too much? And then sometimes I feel really on point, like just sharing that about the acting thing. I felt more confident. So I just wanted to share that with you. That was a big step in. What it is a really strong example of my journey from not being able to express myself to now being able to express myself publicly like this. I can do it one-on-one with friends very easily in very private, intimate moments. But to publicly do this with no one to bounce off of is really intense for me, and it's a completely new experience. But it fits in with the I matter, because this story matters. This experience of mine matters to me. It matters to me. And I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I'll pick up a little bit of where I left off. I realized during that time of anger that I was gripping onto this urethra trauma so hard, like it was my identity. And some of this was played out on the podcast as well. I was gripping to it like it was my identity. And then when I realized that I was the one gripping to it and it wasn't the trauma doing it to me, I was able to go through the process of releasing it and letting go of it. And it was incredible experience to see that I was the one holding myself back in this story the whole time, or at least I don't know for how long, but for a while I was the one that was holding myself back in this story. And after I moved through that's when I realized, that's when I started to actually look at my religious trauma and realize that, hey, maybe I'm holding on to this one too. Maybe what they did in the indoctrination, which is real and true and in my system, and was suppressing me and was in control for so long. But then I realized that I had played a part in that too, because I was allowing it to do that to me. And that is where I was holding on to the trauma. When I allowed that to happen to me, when I allowed the urethra trauma to affect me, when I allowed the religious trauma to affect me, that's my doing. And that's where I come in, and I have the power to release that. So when this occurred to me and I had gotten through this big burst of anger for months, I was just so livid until I just needed to feel it all. And when I got to the end of that and I popped out the other side of the anger, I realized I was in this state of utter fear, terrified fear. I was like a little kid in a corner, so scared. And I was able to finally be with that part of me and hold him and say, hey, I'm here. I got you. And I'm not going to let anything happen to you like this again, because you are worthy to me, and because I love you, and because you matter. I still didn't have the you matter, actually. I have that now, but I didn't have that yet in the story. And when this happened, I was trying to let go of the religious trauma, and I went on this journey for like a month or two of letting go of the religious trauma, and I had a few amazing experiences, which I've talked about, I think, on the podcast. And the very last one was, the one that really did it was, I was doing a San Pedro journey, and I was attempting to let go of the religious trauma. And as I was doing it, I was like talking to my friend who was assisting me, facilitating me in this. And I said, I see why I can't let it go. I see a part of me. There's a part of me that believes it, that believes the religious story, or the story of this particular, of Christianity that I was in the religion of. It's part of me that believes this. And he looked at me and he said, if that's true, you have done an incredible job of hiding it, because in all the years that I've known you, I've never seen that part of you once. And that really hit home. And that's so confusing, because I was quite sure, quite positive that there was something in me that was really believing it. And the deeper I looked, the more started to come to light. And what happened was, I realized that in order to survive the environment I was in, which was a Christian environment, a Christian family who went to a Lutheran family who went to a Lutheran church and lived right next door to the Lutheran school that my dad was a principal of, my mom taught at, and most people knew who we were in the church. So we had to be, us kids felt like, at least I did, I felt like I had to be perfect because of the reputation of my family. So I had to put on a show. And when I realized, what I realized in this journey was I had to believe, had to pretend to believe this story to survive in this environment. And when that clicked in and locked in, and I realized that I had pushed down my truth and set aside a truth that I innately knew in order to live. I guess someone call it deny or die. I had to deny my truth or die. Those are the only two ways to survive as a child, as a little kid who needs the support of his parents and the community. So deny who I am or die. So I chose deny who I am. And when I realized this, the religious trauma story that I've been holding on to just turned to sand and fell through my fingers. And I knew that what I needed was my truth, which I didn't know what it was. It's the truth that this white stallion of truth anointed me with that I held a year ago. And that's the truth that I needed to look for. So I started searching that in the same journey. And it hit as I just sat there and like opened space for it to come. It arose, and the truth was that I matter. And if I matter, that clashes against the story of the church and the story of religion, because they're telling me that I'm a sinner. They're telling me that I am not innately good enough, that I need outside help, and that I'm going to hell if I don't worship and believe in something outside of me. But when I landed on I matter, things started lighting up in my system. An energy started moving through that I had never felt before. Because when I matter, when I myself tell myself I matter, and I believe it, and I hold it, and I embody it, the wounds and the traumas and the outside influences that are trying to take that away from me start having less power. And I'm gaining more power. And in the I matter, the closer I get to the core of me, the closer I get. This is what I was realizing that day. The closer I get to God. And what people are saying is afterlife, heaven and hell, those are not afterlife things. Those are present day things. In my opinion, right now, as I journey through this and integrate it and learn it, is my separation from myself is hell. And my connection to myself is heaven. Because if we're made in the likeness of God, as they say, then to fully honor that we matter connects us to God. And that is actual heaven. And the hell is the separation of ourselves from ourselves, saying we don't matter, we aren't good enough, we're sinners, we cannot do this by ourselves. So this is what I wanted to get to. I matter. You matter. And after that moment, this beautiful new energy started flowing through me. I started connecting more with the energy of life, the energy of creation, which is sexual energy, and feeling that and experiencing the beauty of it and owning it and feeling the shame of it drop away, which is another thing that the church instills in you, is this shame for feeling that, the shame of having that energy, and that it's wrong and you shouldn't be feeling it. You should suppress it and push it away. But I've been letting it come through, and the more I let it come through, this is when I actually got cleared. My sacral center started to clear. And then just last couple episodes, a couple weeks ago, if you've been following the podcast, my root opened because I had fully connected. I fully accepted my presence on this earth as a human being, as Joel, and that is the root chakra. And when that opened up, I was able to align with the other open chakras that I have, crown all the way down to root, and the energy flowed so beautifully and so expansively and smoothly that I had a beautiful awakening moment of feeling connected, fully connected to myself, which literally felt like connection to God. It felt like heaven. And that is the healing work. That's where we are aiming towards when we're clearing this trauma, the generational trauma, our personal trauma, wounds, integrating our shadow, loving our shadow, and accepting our shadow, because that's all part of us. Those are all things that make us whole. And we are the embodiment of everything that we can hold. We are the embodiment of everything that is possible to hold. All the darkness, all the light are all part of us, and none of them are bad. They're all beautiful attributes to who we are. That's why we are made in the likeness of God. And that's why we are connected to each other. That's why we are connected to the universe, the earth, and to all things. And that's why we matter. So I am still integrating this. I still get overwhelmed with emotion thinking about it. I still have to upkeep and maintain and do maintenance and clear cobwebs and wounds and traumas and more traumas that I don't know of yet that will make themselves known. There's still a lot of work to do, and this isn't like this experience of being connected to myself wholly and to being accepted to God, connected to God is not a constant thing in my life. It is something that I touched, and now I know what that is, and I understand a little bit more of the way to get there and accept that I can get there when I want to and when I do the work. And I want to offer that knowledge to you, and I want to offer that possibility to you, and to, I guess what I'm saying is I'm energetically, even if we don't work one-on-one together or in a group together, I am energetically sending support and holding you in your journey to reach there. And truly, deeply want you to know that you matter. Every part of you matters. Every emotion in you matters. Every shadow and light aspect of you matters. And I hope that you find your way back to yourself. Okay, thank you so much for listening, even through the rambling. I'm still finding my voice, and I appreciate you coming along on the journey. I would love to hear from you. If you want to leave any messages on Instagram or email me at joel@alittleroomforhealing.com. I'm also building out my distance Reiki and Laho Chi practice. So if you'd like to receive distance energy work, reach out to me on either Instagram at @alittleroomforhealing or my email, and we can set up a time. I am feeling more called and ready to do the work and help others find their way back to themselves. So more is to come, and I hope that you make a little room for healing in your lives. And I very much look forward to talking to you more, hearing from you, experiencing you. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for making a little room for my podcast. I'd love to be a part of your journey too. Follow me on Instagram at @alittleroomforhealing for news, updates, offerings, and connection. To book a session with me, go to www.alittleroomforhealing.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, follow the link at the bottom of the episode description. Have a beautiful day.